It is the first reading wrap-up of 2026. Let me just say that I am having a great time reading so far this year. One thing that I really wanted to focus on this year was reading books that I actually think I will really enjoy. Not just because I think they'll make good videos. And I think this month was a really great start at doing that. Now, for some stats, I read 9 books in January, 6 romance books, 2 young adult fantasies, and 1 middle grade fantasy. I finished 1 series. I read 7 physical books, 1 on my Kindle, and 1 audiobook. So, let's get into them. The first book that I finished this year was Arch Enemies by Marissa Meyer. This is the second book in the Renegades trilogy, a clean young adult fantasy series. This series takes place in Gatlin City. Now, many years ago, Gatlin City was completely overrun by anarchists, a group of powered people who, as the name suggests, thrust the entire society into a state of anarchy. But then come the Renegades, a group of superheroes who want to return the city back to their natural order. Now, many years later, you are following Nova, who has been raised as an anarchist. So she decides that she's going to go undercover in the Renegades in order to be able to destroy them from the inside out. I was thoroughly convinced that this book was not going to be a 5 stars. Up until the last 30 pages, I was like, like maybe a 4.5. I still see this as like a potential 5-star series, but this book is not a 5 stars. I'm sorry, what? The last 30 pages sent me into a tailspin. The events that happened in this last 30 pages blew my mind and I was on the edge of my seat. Like, I was actually nervous about what was going to happen at the end of this book. And obviously, with the way that these books are written, there is a certain event that is going to take place in the next book, and I am absolutely dreading reading that. I don't want to read it, it's gonna make me sad. Marissa Meyer's writing is so simple, but it creates a super vivid picture in my mind of what I'm reading, and I absolutely have a blast reading her books. Then I read The Ballad of Never After, the second book in the Once Upon a Broken Heart trilogy by Stephanie Garber, another clean young adult fantasy series. Evangeline has had a rough time. Both of her parents have passed away. Her stepmother is so evil, and the love of her life is set to marry someone else. In an act of desperation, she approaches Jax, the Prince of Hearts, asking him to stop the wedding, but she has no idea what she's actually asking and what she will give up to get it. I did rate this a 5 stars. I'm sorry, what in the world was that? Stephanie Garber, do you actually hate me personally? That ending was so mean. Also, how can I go from the beginning of the book where I like wasn't really into it and the characters were super annoying to me to at the end being like, oh my gosh, 6-star read, like I'm gonna cry about it. Jax, I love him. I love him. I feel like in other books that I've read, characters that are similar to Jax have given me major bully vibes. But Jax, I can actually see how he's growing and changing through the books, but trying to cover it up by remaining cold and callous to everyone around him. Eva was really annoying me at the beginning. She was approaching everything with a stubbornness and naivety that just made her seem super stupid. And I was certain she was going to end up getting hurt or killing herself because she was just approaching everything in a really terrible way. But as this story went on, my opinion of her changed so much. She is so hurt. She has lost everything in her life, everything that she cares about. So she clings on with a desperate hope that she can change the outcome of her life. And she's doing so to keep herself from breaking. She's strong in that way where it's easy to forget the gravity of all of the things that she's been through, but she's still there. She is still fighting for her happily ever after with everything she has left to give. Stephanie Garber's writing is truly some of my favorites to read. She truly transports me into the world and creates such a vivid picture of what's happening. It's literally like I am watching a movie. And the pacing of her books is so intriguing too. It's very fast paced, but you also get these slow moments where you can really dive in and see the characters and what they're going through and what's going through their minds. Love. I am literally having to restrain myself from going and binge reading A Curse for True Love. like right now. The next book that I read was People We Meet on Vacation by Emily Henry. This is an open door romance. Poppy and Alex have been friends for so long, however they're not currently speaking to each other. In a spur of the moment decision, Poppy decides to join Alex as he goes to Palm Springs for his brother's wedding. It's told in two timelines as you are seeing how this latest vacation is going for them, but they're also then exploring previous vacations that they've gone on and how they got to know each other through those. This was actually the book that got me back into reading 4 years ago, but I did not like it the first time I read it. I remember thinking that the reason that Poppy and Alex were fighting was stupid. However, I was a tiny little baby 20-year-old who didn't really understand why this could actually be an issue. However, I am older and wiser now, and I've read so many books since I read this for the first time and now can understand why that would be an issue. I was so into this book when I was rereading it this time. I binge read it in 2 days and legitimately wanted to neglect all of my responsibilities to keep reading it. I gave this read a 4 stars. Then I read The Confidentiality Clause by Anna Conwell. This is the 5th and final book in the More Than a Game series. This is the book series that I finished this month. It is a cutesy little clean sports romance series. Brock is a chronic workaholic as a sports agent. He works more than he does anything else, and his family is super worried about him, especially his twin sister. So she sends her best friend Ariel to check on Brock. What she finds is a little bit alarming, but she promises to not tell his family how bad he's doing in exchange for helping him to try to relieve his stress and live a little bit of a better life. Now, this was not my favorite book in the series. That title is held by The Golden Goal, but I still really liked this book. I gave it a 4 stars. The only thing I will say about this book is that the resolution was a little bit rushed. Truly, Brock was dealing with a lot of internal struggle in terms of why he was working so hard, and I feel like the explanation that he gave his friends and family for the things that was going on in his mind was a little bit rushed and didn't fully explain the gravity of the things that he was feeling and going through. But the chemistry between Brock and Ariel was so good. I loved it. I was getting butterflies and kicking my feet, and I binge read this whole thing in a morning because I simply couldn't put it down. Book Lovers by Emily Henry, another open door romance. Nora is a literary agent who loves what she does. The only thing she loves more than her job is her little sister, Libby. So when she asks Nora to go on a last-minute trip to Sunshine Falls, the town from her all-time favorite romance novel, Nora simply can't say no. What she doesn't expect is to run into Charlie Lastra, her workplace rival on their trip. I don't know why, but when I read this book the first time, I thought Charlie was mean. He's not. He really isn't. I love him. And you know who he loves? The entire book? Nora Stevens. He is down bad the entire time, and I just ate it up. I love Emily Henry's writing. I love how she writes characters who are so relatable, and they also exhibit characteristics of typical female archetypes in a unique way. Her books are always women's fiction disguised as romance, and I think that the plot between Nora and her sister Libby is just so deep and resonates so much for many people. Also, this book was funny. Like, the banter is top tier. Like, this book is a masterclass in how to write good banter. I loved it so much more than I did the first time. 4.75 stars. Beach Read by Emily Henry, once again an open door romance. January, she's having a hard time. She has a deadline for her newest book that she's got to write, and she hasn't started the book. And now she's spending the summer in Michigan, living next door to Augustus Everett, who is her college author rival. And the two of them decide to help each other out of their creative ruts by teaching them how to write the genres that the other writes. I rated this at 4.25 stars. Actually, I enjoyed Book Lovers more than I enjoyed this book, which was not the case when I read these books for the first time. Now, that might have something to do with the fact that for the first 2.5 years I was back into reading, I was very heavily influenced by other people's opinions of books, and a lot of the booktubers that I love to watch have Beach Read as like one of their top tier, like 6-star reads. So that might have had something to do with it. I'm not gonna lie, there were some parts of this book that I didn't like. Never the romance. I love Augustus Everett. He's awesome. We love him. But I'm not gonna lie, the side plot that January is going through kind of irked me this time. I was not a fan, but Emily Henry just writes such good men, doesn't she? I never have anything bad to say about them, which, if you think about it, is quite interesting because Emily Henry writes her books through the female main character's points of view. So she's describing these male main characters through the eyes of the women who love them, and then I never have anything negative to say about them. Is that profound? It sounds profound in my head. Happy Place by Emily Henry. Another open door romance, you say? How did you guess? Harriet is looking forward to a week at her happy place with her best friends. However, she does not expect to get there and find her fiance because they actually broke up, but they didn't tell any of their friends. Now, in an effort to save the vacation, they have to pretend to be madly in love with each other for the whole week. I rated this at 4 stars upon my reread. I thought that this book was going to wreck me. No, because a lot of this book explores the relationships that you have with your college friends once you have graduated, and that is more of the life stage that I am in now, but it didn't. I was actually disappointed with the resolution between the friends, but also with Harriet's relationship with herself. I feel like there needed to be a lot more reflection and introspection in order to be able to heal properly. I feel like Emily Henry actually just like took a broom and swept it under the rug. Like, Harriet realized that one of her defining behaviors is actually causing a lot of serious harm in her life, and she didn't say that to anybody. Where's the communication? Then I read Artemis Fowl by Eoin Colfer. This is the first book in the middle grade fantasy series. And this book was not at all what I thought it was going to be. I don't know what I expected, but Artemis Fowl is a millionaire, genius, criminal mastermind who decides that the best way to try and restore his family's fortune is to kidnap a fairy and hold her for ransom. There are so many magical creatures in this book. I genuinely could not tell you what I thought this book was about, but I never could have guessed what was going to happen in this book. This book was literally a fever dream. I'm not sure that the audiobook was the way to go. Once I got to about the halfway point, I started understanding who the characters were a little bit more. And also, what do you mean? We got a full page talking about dwarf farts? Like, okay, in this world that Artemis Fowl takes place, dwarfs are really good at tunneling. And how do they dig tunnels? They eat dirt and then poop it out. Eating all this dirt creates diabolical bomb farts in these dwarves. He has a butt flap in his pants. Like, what? The second half of the book was definitely much easier to understand than the first half. And I think I will be continuing the series just specifically because of the dwarves. And then the final book that I read in January was Funny Story by Emily Henry. Another open door romance. Daphne's life has been completely turned upside down. She moved to Michigan for her fiance. Then he turned around and decided that he was madly in love with his childhood best friend. Now Daphne is alone in a city where she doesn't really know anybody, and she has to move in with the ex-boyfriend of her ex-fiance's new girlfriend, Miles. Did you catch all that? And so now they are navigating this heartbreak together. 5 stars. I love Funny Story. I still claim it to be one of my all-time favorite books I've ever read in my entire life. Daphne is me. I am Daphne. Like, one of the quotes in this book is, I was never the one just having fun. I was always the one anticipating consequences. Hello? Like, how in the world did Emily Henry get into my mind and put pen to paper and describe so many things that I have felt in my life? This book still hit me just as hard as it did the first time I read it, especially since I've been going to therapy for the past 6 months. I think for some reason that just heightened the experience. I annotated this book this time, and that was so fun. I definitely want to do that more with some of my 5-star reads. So those are the 9 books that I read in January. I had a great reading month. Granted, most of the books that I read were rereads. However, those still count. Anyways, that is all I have for you guys today. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up to let me know that you enjoy this type of content. Comment down below the books that you read in January, and subscribe to my channel for more bookish content in the future. I hope you have a lovely rest of your week, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye!